My relatives received extravagant gifts while I got a bottle of shampoo for my birthday. But now I am moving out, and everything is falling apart. I am 26 years old, a woman living with my parents, and I have two siblings, Alex and Mia. As the eldest, I was the first to start working. For a long time, it was just my father and me supporting the family, as my mother was either unwell or too exhausted to contribute. Over the years, I've come to realize that her health issues are largely self-inflicted. She prefers to lounge on the couch all day, binge-watching shows and eating junk food rather than working. I gave up trying to motivate her to find a job a long time ago. My brother and sister started working shortly after finishing school, but unfortunately, they couldn't hold on to their jobs for long. Alex had a history of petty theft, and Mia often blamed her anxiety for her inability to keep a job. The brief financial relief we experienced when they started working didn't last long. Eventually, I had to take on extra shifts at work, knowing I couldn't rely on them. I worked diligently to climb the corporate ladder, and now I earn more than most people my age. Many congratulate me on my success, but I often feel like a fraud. When I look back, I realize I haven't done much for myself. 70% of my salary goes to household bills, leaving me with only 30% for my own needs. Every month tea here is always an unexpected expense that I have to cover. I work so much that I am rarely home, and when I am, it's a nightmare. That's the problem, it's exhausting. At least I get paid for my job. But no one compensates me for taking care of the house. I have to clean, do laundry, wash the dishes, and ensure we have enough groceries. My mother and sister hardly lift a finger. My mother spends all day glued to the television, while Mia stays locked in her room, only emerging to hang out with friends and get into trouble. I can't ask my father or brother for help because they believe in traditional gender roles. You know the type of family I come from, and although I don't agree with those ideas, I feel trapped. I always thought I had no choice since I was living under their roof. Every time I tried to voice my frustrations, my mother would tell me to find my own place. She knows I can't afford to move out and support the family at the same time. She also thinks my heart is too soft to let them fend for themselves. But that's not the reason I am writing this post. It's not even the reason I am so frustrated. The real reason is that my parents have once again shown that they love my siblings more than they love me. It was my birthday 2 days ago, and guess what I received as a gift? A bottle of shampoo. You might be wondering why I sound ungrateful. That's because last month was Mia's birthday, and she had a lavish surprise party that we couldn't afford. I had to take on extra freelance work to help pay for it after my dad claimed he had the funds to cover the costs. When I initially refused, he came to me with a sob story about how he had miscalculated and borrowed money from some dangerous people, fearing they would come after us. Wanting to protect my family, I reluctantly agreed to pay for the party. I was extremely disappointed because they always do this, whether it's holidays or birthdays. They put more thought into my siblings' gifts than mine. This year, Alex received a brand new gaming console, while Mia got a voucher for the most expensive spa in town. And me? I got shampoo. After everything I've done for this family, is shampoo all I deserve? I don't know why, but this time I was particularly offended. I've found ways to get over it in the past, telling myself they didn't mean it and that they loved and appreciated me. However, I think it's time I stop lying to myself. That shampoo was the last straw. After receiving it, I exploded. I couldn't control my emotions. A huge lump formed in my throat and anger overwhelmed me. I asked them why I couldn't have a big party like Mia or Alex. All I got was shampoo, not even a decent cake. My dad got upset immediately and asked why I was being so ungrateful, considering their financial situation. At that moment, I started laughing and asked him how he could say that with a straight face. He was the one who got into debt just to ensure Mia had a memorable birthday party but couldn't spend more than $20 on mine. I was tired of being treated differently. I even asked if I was adopted, was that why they treated me like a stranger? I work hard at my job, come home and take care of everyone, and the only thing I get in return is shampoo? They must be joking. My mother started crying, saying she hated it when I had these outbursts. So it's okay for her to express her emotions, but when I dare to show mine, I am inconsiderate of the family? That's exactly what I understood from her comment. She has countless moods throughout the day, and we're expected to accept them. But if I get upset over something valid, I'm called dramatic. Fine. I decided to stop arguing and went to my room. When they tried calling me, I pretended to be asleep. The whole time I sat there, I felt so unhappy. Even though I keep myself busy all the time, When it's time to sleep, I can't. My thoughts revolve around how unhappy I am. Most people my age are buying their first cars, getting married, or even purchasing homes. I see some of them at work doing exactly that, and even though they earn less than I do, I feel jealous. Despite being ahead in my career, I feel so far behind in life. I have nothing of my own in this world, and I have no purpose. The only purpose I have is to serve these ungrateful people. Now that I think about it, how did I let them treat me this way? It's been happening for so long that I didn't even realize they were using me. My feelings about this have become very clear because of the incident with my birthday gift. Now I realize I don't want things to stay like this forever. Something has to change. I feel like I am not doing anything with my life, and I want to know what I can do to change everything and find a purpose of my own. Update 1. Asterisk, asterisk, I did it. 2 months since my original post and I've moved out. I can't believe that just 2 months after the birthday incident, I finally moved out. My apartment is very small and barely furnished, but at least it's mine. Want to know the first thing I did as soon as I finished moving? I relaxed on my bed for hours without anyone calling me to fix any little problem. It was a strange feeling. I never knew just lying in bed could be so cathartic. You are probably wondering how I managed to move out, especially with such a controlling family. It wasn't easy, but I did it. First, I followed their advice and started setting boundaries. I only paid the minimum household expenses and saved the rest of my money. Plus, I took on extra shifts at work and kept the money. When my parents asked about the money, I told them it would be included in my year-end bonus. It was hard, but as soon as I had enough for the deposit, I told them to go to hell and move to my new apartment. Once I decided which apartment to rent, I told my parents that I was moving out. It wasn't a pleasant conversation. They were incredibly upset and asked if living with them was really that bad. I told them it wasn't about them. It was about me. I was getting older and needed to be more independent. I couldn't do that if I continued living with them. Besides, my mom had always told me to get my own place. Of course, my mother took offense to my comment and called it sarcastic. She claimed she only wanted the best for me, but that I mocked everything she said. I knew I couldn't win that argument, so I apologized and moved on. My decision to move was met with a lot of resistance from the family, but in the end, there was nothing they could do about it. I had already signed my lease and was ready to go. In protest, none of them helped me pack. I had to ask a few friends from work to help. Janet and Lisa, 2 friends from different departments, were the only ones who knew about my situation at home. When I told them I was moving, they were so happy they literally jumped for joy. When I asked for help with the move, they were more than willing to assist. A couple of days ago, we finished moving everything, and now I am here in my nearly empty apartment. I don't have much, but at least I am happy. I can't wait to start living for myself. Update 2. Asterisk, asterisk. I've been living in my apartment for over a month now. It's been a challenging month, but I am happier than ever, or at least I was until a few hours ago. Let me quickly tell you what happened over the past month. I've been furnishing my apartment and even hosted a housewarming party. I've had my evenings free, so I've started hanging out with friends and even meeting new people through them. It feels so good to finally have a social life after so long without one. Honestly, I feel like I am finally living for myself. Besides building a social life, I've been dating someone Lisa introduced me to. In the past, I never went out with anyone because I didn't have the time. My family always interrupted my plans with some emergency or another. But now that I live farther away, they can't do that anymore. You are probably wondering how my relationship with my family has been over the past month. Well, honestly, none of them have messaged me at all during this time. They've been eerily silent, which has been unsettling at times. I've thought about messaging them, but I stopped myself. I feel like I am always the one who breaks the ice and apologizes after our disputes. I don't want to be that way anymore. I want to be respected like any other member of the family, so I decided not to reach out. For a while, I thought our relationship was over. That was until my mom called me this afternoon while I was at work. I was so surprised to see her name on my screen, but I answered. As soon as I picked up, she asked where the check was. At first, I was confused because I didn't know what check she was talking about. Had she forgotten that I didn't live with them anymore? Come on, what was she thinking? Anyway, she asked me how I expected them to manage without my help. I reminded her that she had 2 healthy, capable children to help with the bills. They've had an entire month to look for work. What have they been doing all this time? Then she asked how I could be so insensitive to my siblings' situations. So I asked her how I could have sympathy for a thief and a lazy girl. They ruined their job opportunities themselves. Couldn't they learn from me and persevere? I told my mom that I wasn't going to send anything and that they had to make their own plan. Then I hung up. She called me several more times, but I didn't answer. Later, my dad called and tried to scold me, but I hung up again. I couldn't believe it when I did, as I had never cut them off like that while they were speaking before. But honestly, this past month has been so peaceful, and getting back in touch with them made me realize how chaotic my life used to be. I don't think I want to disturb my peace by bringing them back into my life. I wish they had stayed silent. They should have cut me off and left me alone because in reality, I've never truly been part of the family anyway. Now it's clear to me that they only wanted me as long as I could provide for them. I was living an unsustainable lifestyle because I was always the support, but now that's over. I've reached my limit. It's time for me to focus on myself. I should have done this a long time ago. They've tried to make me feel guilty, but it's not working. I think it's because I am finally immune to it. Update 3. ****. Honestly, I don't know what's wrong with my family. I can't believe I am related to such crazy people. I knew they were capable of extreme things to get what they wanted. But this is too much. I am not going to be lenient with them after this. They're about to see a side of me they never knew existed. It's been 2 days since my family started harassing me for money. I've told them repeatedly that I am not giving them a cent. They need to make their own plan. If they can't pay their bills, how can they expect that I'd still have money to support them when I have my own expenses? It's completely irresponsible and irrational. I've been ignoring them for the past 24 hours, focusing on buying more furniture for my apartment. It's finally starting to look like a home, and I am so proud of myself. I can't believe I finally have things I can call my own. Unfortunately, I can't fully enjoy this achievement because they've been so annoying. I ignored them the entire time, which is probably why they decided to show up at my house. Yes, they showed up at my apartment last night while I was having a small gathering. So here is what happened. Yesterday was Friday night, and a couple of my friends wanted to go out, but I was too tired. Lisa and Janet felt the same, so we suggested a cozy wine night at my place. 2 other girls joined us, and we were having a great time until there was a commotion outside the door. I live in a quiet apartment complex, so this was alarming. We tried to ignore it, but it got louder, and eventually reached my door. When I opened it, my sister, dad, and brother were arguing with the building manager. They were demanding to be let into my apartment because they were family. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I told the manager that I knew them, but that they weren't welcome. My dad looked hurt and said he just wanted to talk. I asked him to look at the time. It was 10 p.m. I told them that if they wanted to see me, they could have called beforehand. Also, how on earth did they even know where I lived? That's when my sister intervened, saying she found out through a friend who had seen me at the complex. Then she started looking around and commented that I was living large. She asked why she couldn't move in with me. I looked at her like she was crazy. Why would I want to live with someone so lazy? Not only would I have to feed her, but I'd also have to clean up after her. I hadn't forgotten the dynamics of the last few years. I told them to leave because they weren't welcome, especially at that hour. My father refused and said they wouldn't leave until I talked to them. I told him I wasn't interested in talking, especially since I had guests. Then my brother started yelling at the top of his lungs, addressing my friends and calling me a useless sister. He forced his way into my apartment and began verbally attacking me. Between him, my sister, and my father, I felt overwhelmed. Meanwhile, my friends sat in shock, witnessing this horror show. Things only got worse when my father and brother started going through my things and turning them upside down. Seeing them treat my belongings with such disrespect made me cry. I begged them to stop, but they wouldn't listen. They said I had caused this and wouldn't leave without a check. That was until security arrived. It turns out Janet went to call security as soon as my father and brother started disturbing the peace. When security arrived, both my father and brother refused to leave and even tried to resist. That was a huge mistake because the commotion was so loud that they had to call the police. As of today, my father and brother are in jail for trespassing in my apartment and disturbing the peace. They won't be released until Monday, and I've already pressed charges. I am taking them to court over this. They've crossed a huge line, and I won't be lenient with them. This is the end. They've gone too far, and I am not going to let them keep dragging me into their mess. Update 4. ***. I really wanted to post an update sooner since it's been 4 months, but I decided to wait until everything was settled. Now that the trial is over, I can finally tell you everything. I think many of you will be happy to know that my family got what they deserved. Starting with my brother, due to his previous theft incident, the judge wasn't lenient with him as he is a repeat offender. He was sentenced to a year in prison. Unfortunately, this will remain on his record, making it even harder for him to build a future for himself. But honestly, with the way he's been living his life, he already had little chance. I hope that time in jail straightens him out and helps him get his priorities in order. As for my father, he had to pay a fine to the court and is now on probation. If he even gets a traffic ticket, it's over for him. He has to be extremely careful for a while, otherwise he'll end up in jail. The judge and the city take these offenses very seriously, which is why both have faced these consequences. Now about my mother, her years of overeating and inactivity have finally caught up with her. She's at serious risk of heart disease due to how unhealthy her lifestyle is. If she doesn't make some drastic changes, the doctors say she has less than 2 years because of how quickly her health is deteriorating. Knowing her, she probably doesn't care. She thinks she'll live forever. I've tried to get her to eat healthier for years, but she never listened to me, and eventually, I gave up. If the high cholesterol doesn't kill her, my sister probably will. Speaking of my sister, she's been the talk of the town lately, and not for good reasons. Since money has been tight and T here is no one to fund her lifestyle anymore, she decided to take matters into her own hands. Somehow she got involved with the wrong crowd, and rumors are swirling that she's been selling things on the street corner. It's both illegal and extremely dangerous. About a week ago, I heard that she was arrested after being caught doing something suspicious. I wouldn't be surprised if she soon finds herself in a physically dangerous situation due to the path she's chosen. People have been asking me to talk to her, but she chose this life. Honestly, she probably thinks I am foolish for having an honest job. No offense to anyone in that field, but I've seen what some of these girls go through, and T here is no happy ending in sight for her. Just substance abuse, more jail time, and dangerous situations. Since Mia started down this path, my mom has collapsed several times from the stress, but Mia still lives with our parents, so in a way, they're enabling her behavior by letting her stay there. Even though she's making money, she's clearly not using it responsibly or paying the bills. You are probably wondering how I know all this. I found out through a reliable source. Apparently, my parents are now receiving food stamps, and my dad's work hours have been reduced, so he spends most of his time at home with my mom and Mia. I can only imagine the hunger they must be feeling in that house now. But that's not all for them, because on top of this whole situation they're living in, they still have to pay for the damages they caused to my apartment. I was able to recover the things they destroyed, but they still have to pay the money the judge ordered. I feel sorry for them, but not enough to step in and help. It is what it is. They made their choices, and now they have to live with the consequences. Update 5. Asterisk, asterisk, I have an update with several things that have happened recently, and the truth is that my family keeps sinking deeper into the problems that, as I often say, they've created for themselves. They're the kind of people who try to get out of a hole by digging. I don't know if T here is any way back for them, but what I do know is that it's not my responsibility to get them out of the holes they've dug themselves, and they keep making them deeper. To start with, my father, who had to pay for the damages he and my brother caused in my apartment, simply didn't do it. Many of the comments I received in my last update predicted this would happen, and they were right. The saddest part is that this time he didn't even try not a single effort to show he was willing to comply with the judge's order. But of course the judge was also right when he warned that any failure would be enough to send him back to jail. A sneeze, and he could be sent to jail, and that's exactly what happened. It wasn't a literal sneeze, but the fact that he didn't pay what he was ordered earned him a trip to jail. I found out a few days ago that he's serving time there now. The ironic thing about all this is that my father was the only one who, in theory, was working in that house. Now that he's behind bars, I have no idea how my mother is going to manage on her own. The last time I spoke with someone close to the family, they told me there was barely any food in the house, and considering my mother's health problems, that's more than concerning. But to be honest, all I can feel is a cold distance from this whole situation. For years, I was the one who kept that house afloat, and they emotionally and financially exploited me. Now they're facing the consequences of their own irresponsibility. My mother, on top of it all, is alone in the house, not only because my father is in jail, but also because now my brother and sister are behind bars as well. My brother had already been in jail for a while, as you'll remember, but now my sister has joined him. Yes, her business venture, in quotes, ended exactly as expected with her being arrested. Everyone saw it coming except her. Her situation became even more chaotic when she started using drugs in addition to selling, which left her even more vulnerable and with almost no judgment. An undercover cop was the one who caught her in the act, and that was the end of her attempt to sustain an unsustainable lifestyle. Now she's awaiting trial, but honestly, I don't think she'll come out of this unscathed. The worst part is that she can't even afford a decent lawyer, so she's in the hands of a public defender. I don't want to sound cruel, but I don't see much hope for her. As for my mother, I honestly don't know what will become of her life now. She's living in that house that once had 5 people in it, and now it's completely empty with my father in prison, my sister awaiting trial, and my brother already serving time. The house is emptied out, and the worst part is that she has absolutely no one to take care of her. For years, she did nothing, relying on everyone to bring her money and food, and now, because of her health problems, she can barely leave the house. I don't know how she's going to survive. I know they're receiving food stamps, but that's not enough to live on. In short, my family has completely fallen apart. All I have left is my peace, and although it sounds harsh, I don't regret distancing myself from them. Update 6. Asterisk, asterisk. I feel bad for being the bearer of bad news, but at least it's no longer my bad news. It's my family's. Although everything happening is a kind of slow-motion tragedy, I can't help but feel a sense of relief at not being directly involved in this disaster. To start, I've finally recovered my money. It wasn't an easy process, and as expected, my father didn't have the means to pay me. The only reason he finally did was that my mother had to take out a loan to get him out of jail. The fact that my father was in jail for contempt complicated everything even more, but in the end, after much effort, she got the money. It wasn't her own initiative, of course, but my mother's desperation to get my father out of jail. My father being out of jail is perhaps the only positive thing in this whole situation. During all this time, my mother had been living with a relative while trying to solve my father's legal problem. She left the house for a long time, and as expected, the house was left alone. Now, the neighborhood we lived in was never the best, especially for leaving a house unsupervised. Apparently, it's been vandalized and completely looted. The most disturbing part is that, from what I've been told, there are people living there now, people who, from what I understand, could be former clients of my sister. The fact that there are people squatting in the house is just the beginning of the problem. Even if my parents manage to evict them, which I doubt will be easy, I don't know if you could even call what's left a house. It hurts me to imagine the state of the place I once called home, especially because I put so much time and effort into maintaining it when I still lived there. But at the end of the day, it's no longer my house. It's not in my name, and frankly, it's not my problem to solve. That's something my parents will have to face on their own. As for my siblings, they continue serving their sentences. There aren't many updates on that front. What surprises me most about all of this is how quickly the situation deteriorated after I left. It's as if my departure was the last nail in the coffin of a situation that was already rotten from the inside.